Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Week off here, but we are back. Today, we got a book review. Those that ain't reading, Craig's going to give it to you short form for you today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you don't know already, High Stakes Advising, rescheduled date this August. Check it out. We are almost sold out. Pick them up before they're gone. Craig, my friend, welcome to the show.
Hey. Good to be here. Good to see everybody back. For those pricks at Facebook who shall remain nameless, even though we've been doing a show for 2 years, Messenger said we were spamming people, so screw you.
Yeah, people signed up for the Messenger, wrote it as spam, so now they're not letting us send it out. All right. Welcome to Facebook. Hey, look, good news, everybody listening. Just got off the phone with one of our advisor partners, and the tide is turning. I could tell you employers are making changes, doing a lot of conversation with employers, with brokers. They're making a shift. The shift they weren't making last year, going self-funded from fully insured, they're doing it this year. I'm not hearing the excuses I heard. I'm still getting the dumb, stupid excuses, objections, and questions. Those are probably not going away. But they are pulling the trigger. Good news for your advisors. Get out there. Convert to business. It's a $1 trillion marketplace of fully insured business, okay? You now have the ability to convert all that business with no claims data. California brokers, if there was a time where there's massive opportunity in a market where Craig lived, where no claims data, restrictions on self-funding, you got groups up to 350 lives that don't get data. Groups 75 to 350 that you can convert now self-funded with no medical questionnaires, no claims data. I mean, what more do you want to write business? You can walk in the door to all these California brokers that were sitting and not selling self-funding, not talking about it, don't understand it, don't know it, and you can go in and convert them all because the per employee per years are through the roof. What do you say, Craig? California boy.
California
I'm getting excited. I'm excited. I wish I was still in retail. I'd move back to Cali.
Did you see the latest publication? The government had to finally admit that, oh shit, there is inflation. It's not 1 or 2%.
Oh yeah.
Good God. Commodities, fuel prices, food, everything's going through the roof. Well, geez, hey, brokers, how long do you think it's going to take before the carriers go, oh, well, we're going to have to bump up trend. And now those renewals are just going to go up and away. And I can tell you, John, 75 to 350, screw that. I've talked to 400,000 employee companies in the state that are fully insured. It's a target-rich environment.
I think brokers would pee in their pants if they talk to a group that size, though, right?
Fully insured because it's too risky to be self-funded.
I would have years ago too. I would have peed in my pants too, but now I realize it's all somewhat one and the same. Nicer people, like you said, smarter. Typically, nicer people, not always.
Not as insecure as the smaller groups.
Yeah. I mean, look, for guys, independent shops, like you said, I don't think they're ever going to hire an independent to manage benefits. So you can do some consulting, some side work, some SARA, so on and so forth. But I think, guys, premiums are going up. You can walk into a group. I mean, God, I've been quoting some California groups lately. I'm super excited because I mean, it's wide open. You talk about opportunity. Anyhow, I don't know about insurance today so much, but I'm excited about it. Good things to come. The tide is turning. It's not 100%, but it's going in the right direction. We're coming back. The closes are coming in. So everybody out there, get your ass prospect and get in front of people. Hey, people are going to take meetings now. People are willing to meet with you. Screw the Zoom. Look. Yeah, it was cool. It works good for clients and renewals, but new business is not the same. I don't know how you feel, Craig, but I just can't get them to engage the way in a meeting that you can face-to-face. It's just different.
Yeah, they're not paid actors, so, they can't hide their feelings. So, when you're staring at that HR manager, and they aren't responding and they're giving you that stern look like, my old, second grade nun school teacher who would, wrap my knuckles with a ruler. Yeah. You're not reaching her. So that's hard to do on Zoom, especially when they won't turn their damn camera on.
I hate that. They don't turn the camera on. It's one guy I was talking to. I turned the camera off midway through, and it was with a broker and his client, so I didn't want to get too aggressive. And I said, Bob, whatever his name is, Bob, do you understand? Does that make sense to you? She's like, oh, Bob had to take a call. I'm like, what? just some of the shit that happens on these calls.
Bob's
Anyhow,
not here. Yeah,
I'm excited to get back out in front of people and sell some sizzle, persuasion, get them to know, like, and trust you. Anyhow, Craig, what do we got for today? What do we got for them?
Hey, I thought we'd do a book that I've always liked, and it's fun. It's really a tool, a book full of strategies for you to have an interesting conversation. So, for example, it's not in the book, but the kind of things you can do. Who's to say you couldn't show up at a prospect meeting and you have, for those of you old enough to remember, the old brick cell phone, the flip cell phone, and then, maybe the first iteration of a non-flip, and then today's smartphone. And think how easy it would be to have a conversation just around the concept as a metaphor for healthcare that, I talk to prospects all the time. And it's fascinating that when we look at and we kind of take a deeper dive into and unpack what it is that they have versus what they think they have, sometimes we find that a lot of people still have the equivalent of a flip phone in their plan design for their medical plan. Maybe it's in the way they structure the plan design. Maybe it's in the way they pay the premiums. Maybe it's in the way that, whatever that is, right? And you have a conversation. You say, so I thought it's an easy way for us to have a conversation about what you think about your medical plan and its design and its impact on the employees. Are you a flip phone or are you a smartphone? Right? So this book right here, Think Wrong. Cool book. Recommend it. Has lots of different drills and things you can do. You can use them for your own internal culture, your own office if you want, but I think you could use them with clients and prospects just as easily.
So this is just telling you kind of a different way to kind of sell what you're selling.
It's a different way to talk about the status quo and make it fun to kind of think outside of the box with a semi-structured conversation.
Yeah, because you've got to be able to connect with them and them understand what you're saying, whether it be funny, something funny to relate to, because they don't understand healthcare. For us, we get into jargon. And look, I fall victim to it too, but I see a lot of advisors, they really are on jargon and they go fast. And it's like, these people don't know what you're saying. Yeah. They don't understand it like we do. So Craig is really good. What is it? What is the word? Very laconic. You make everything very simple, but you utilize just examples that they would understand. So how can, when I'm doing calls with employers, I go back and I review the calls and I'm like, all right, that was shitty. That didn't go well there, although I thought it was going to go well there. I'm watching the Zoom review. I'm like, how do I put this in an easier term, or how do I relate this to something else that's going on? Right?
Yeah.
I relay them the Virtue Health Consortium, right? Well, why is yours different? Why is, the other public pools or this or that? I'm like, look, it's kind of like the public pool that, in the town you go to swim at, right? Everybody goes into that pool. Lord knows what goes in the pool, right? At some point, you don't want to swim in the public pool anymore and you want to go private, right? It's like having a private pool versus going to the public pool. Nobody knows what's in there. If you got a private pool, you can control what goes in. You know who goes in. You keep it clean. You make sure the chlorine's in the pool, right?
Yep.
Very simply put. But there's just little ideas like that, I guess, that we all got to get better at, including myself, at stories, telling stories and examples like that.
Yeah, because the whole idea of the book is, it says on the cover, how to conquer the status quo and do what matters. So look, we're all facing the same burden. The data that I've seen from sales and marketing firms say that 80% of new business pitches end up with no change. And that's because of that gravitational pull of what I'm doing is good enough, is more than enough for most people to decide that it's not really worth the effort, the time, the talent, the money, whatever it is, the disruption in their minds to make a change. And so you're stuck with how do we overcome that? Because that gravitational pull is really strong and it takes a lot. So one of the exercises they give you as an idea is, well, let's just imagine for a minute, we can make this topical, that we're going to have Elon Musk is going to take over the management of our healthcare program. And so rather than the normal thinking right where, well, our culture here at this company, defines what can and can't be done. Okay. And that's the think right. The think wrong would be, okay, we've just been hijacked by Elon Musk. And what kind of solutions can you imagine that he would come up with, considering he owns an electric vehicle company, a space technology company, a rapid transit underground tunnel company. I can't even think of all the companies, right? So imagine, and you do this exercise and you go, so he doesn't know about your culture and he's not limited by the bounds and constraints of what you believe can and can't be done, because it's not true. You don't know what all of your employees are thinking. That is total crap. So but it's easy for HR to cop out, to go, oh, that would never work here. It's such a load of crap. They have no idea. So just imagine the exercise and the fun conversation you could have with what would Elon Musk do? What do you say, John?
Yeah, I think I recently we had shout out to Sean Beast on the phone. We played that call that he had on telemarketing call, booking a meeting, right? Went through 3 or 4 objections. The call was like 4 minutes long. He did the meeting at the end, and it just so happened Belfort, Jordan Belfort, obviously at the event, he talked about, and it's always like we're coming up with these good objections and shit. And I was actually with Sean yesterday smoking a Cuban, hooked me up with a Cuban, first Cuban cigar. It's like what you're doing when you're answering the objection with kind of a smart ass thing or like a really good thing that you think is good, like I always do, is like you're punching them and they're going to punch back, right? And the punch that you're hitting them with the objection, it's not always going to go over so smooth. So what Belfort said is like, look, they're going to object. I got to talk to my partner, right? Now you answer that objection. Now they go to the next objection. I got to talk to my wife. And the problem is not necessarily always that objection. It's like what he says is you've got to get them to buy. They got to be at the 3 10s, a 10 with you, your company, and your product, right? So they've got to be at a 10. Now, most people, me and Craig, you can get us salespeople, easiest people to sell. Get me to a 7, I'm sold. But not most people, not business owners. That's why business owners are easy to sell, right? They're salespeople, right? You're like, oh man, that was an easy sale. Gary Bender, very easy when I sold him the first time. Different personality. Most are not like that. So you've got to get them a 10. The point of the story is you have to loop back and resell the value. The objection is coming because they don't have the certainty, confidence in the 3 10s. Okay. And what you heard in the call, which was a phenomenal call, he objected, rebuttal, rejected, rebuttal, objected, rebuttal. And then the last objection, he looped back and he resold the idea. And boom, meeting closed. And that was the answer, And so it's not always that they're just objection. And in our head, we're like, they're an idiot, this and that. They don't understand it. Am I right, Craig? A lot of them, it's over their head. They don't even understand. So this is a simple way this book is saying to explain things, to get them to relate, to get them to understand. That's why people use stories, because they can relate to it. They can remember it more easy.
Yep. Yeah. People use analogies and metaphors because it's easier. A lot of people learn that way, right? So what else is this like? Well, if you can relate it to them in such a way that it's easy for them to understand that, a lot of times it makes it easier to understand what you're talking about. Because what happens in people's brains, I mean, think about it. They have years of experience, of doing things one way typically. And what happens over time is they lose the flexibility in their thinking to be able to think of this thing, a deductible, a medical plan, a high deductible health plan, and HO. They can't think of it in any way other than the one way that they know, that they've reinforced, that they've purchased over and over and over and over again. And so if you can change it and not talk about it directly, but refer to it indirectly by using other examples, it's a great way to break the ice and reach people where they're at, because they're stuck and they don't even know it usually.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, it's hard. That's the beauty of this business. Is if it was easy, everybody would do it. I mean, there's a lot of people that do it that aren't that good and are successful. So sky's the limit. If you're listening, I want to put this out there. We're going to do an episode on this, Craig. If you're listening and you're at a big firm, you're at the ABC houses, think about going solo. A couple guys we know, we're happy to help give you some insight what to do, how to do it. It's time to go solo, baby. All these acquisitions, they're good because the cycle is going to just continue, right? The small guy sells to the big guy, and then the small guy, those guys set off in the sunset, and the small guy takes it back, builds it up, and sells to it. It's just a constant cycle. So, guys, if you're thinking about breaking out on your own, great opportunity, I think. A lot of movement in the market. Premiums continue to go up. That's always good for new guys. It's bad for guys managing a book, but new guys creates great opportunity. So think about it. Get your skills up.
Yeah, lots of opportunities.
Put in 3 to 5 years. It don't happen overnight. I'll tell you that. But when you get there, Craig knows how to like it.
Competition is asleep at the wheel. It's just the way it is. They're managing their lifestyle, and that's cool. But understand that that's an opportunity, because when they're not taking care of business, somebody else could be. So you just have to understand that.
Yeah, you'll be there one day too, right? Craig knows about it. You'll be there one day.
Yeah, been there, done that.
The lifestyle.
Yep. Yeah, it's the nature of the business.
Mike Lutz, shout out to Mike Lutz, doing a call with him this week. Mike Lutz, ex-truck driver. What did Mike Lutz do? I mean, we got so much respect for a guy like Mike, right? Comes to Craig's event in La Jolla 2017, 16-ish.
17.
Craig's event. I think it changed the industry. Nobody even knows it because they weren't there and attended it, but it all leaked out. He's driving a truck. He's got 5 or 6 kids. How many, Mike? 5, 6? Guy looks 30 because he's got full head of hair. Nobody knows how old he really is. But guy's driving a truck around the clock, working in benefits, driving a truck, nonstop on the weekends while he's trying to build a book. That's what you got to do, because you're going to be broke. Now, anybody's out there that's single, has 1 kid, 6 kids. He's got 6 kids. He went out in insurance with a wife in his 40s, 6 kids. Don't tell me you can't do it, okay? Don't tell me you can't. Didn't know shit. He was a truck driver, okay? Don't tell me you can't do it. And huge opportunity. Now he, a couple of years in, I don't think he's done driving a truck. Or I think I told me the other day, he has another side business doing a truck. But, what a world to change. And Mike, what was that? 2017, not even 4 years ago. He went from driving a truck full time to now managing a block of business that's pretty good already, owns a company, and now he has a side business where other people drive the truck for him. I mean, and he's got 6 kids and a wife. So don't tell me you can't turn it around for those of you out there. What a great story. See you soon at High Stakes Advisor, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the next example they give you, the MacGyver story, right? Raise your hand if you don't know the MacGyver reference. 90s TV show, right? So the guy basically was like a super brain spy. And so he'd always, every show would put him in a predicament where he had to take what was ever laying around him and make something into it, right? So they'd lock him in some impenetrable room and with some bubble gum and a paper clip and some cleaning fluid, he could make a bomb. And so every show was about how MacGyver could make something out of nothing. And so the story is, hey, if, in the normal group and the people you're going to talk to, they're going to tell you, hey, there's no time, there's no money, we don't have enough people to do, we don't have the resources, right? We all have to do more with less. That's the COVID excuse. And so the people who are going to try this MacGyver approach are going to go, well, what if we just redefine all of these constraints that we think we have and use that as inspiration to come up with something different? So you get a group of people, you get whoever's in the room, and you go, so if all you could do was use people and time and a very little bit of money, what could you do if you could allocate those things? What would you focus on? What would be your priority? Okay, let's take it to the extreme. What could you do for $1 that would improve your employee benefits? You want to get people thinking differently? You ask them that question, because you guys, you do have solutions that can do that really are either no cost because they're bolt-ons, or there's no net cost after the savings and the expense of producing the savings are netted out. So again, just different ways to help people think about attacking a problem that they think can't be solved. And the book's full of these things. Yeah, I think that stuff's cool because I'm a bit of a pinhead. So
shit, I'm muted.
oh, you're back.
Like it. I think if you could develop a way of with stories, not only client stories to relate to them, but starting out to simplify it and getting their mind to think different. You don't want them to think. I mean, when you're trying to sell self-funding, you don't want them to think of the traditional way of buying healthcare and deductibles and co-insurance, because that's not really what matters. I mean, we can completely change the plan if we change how people purchase healthcare. Now, I'm not saying I don't go into meetings anymore trying to pitch the steerage and change, because unless you're dealing with an owner, it's a complete no. I don't want to tell people what to do. Meanwhile, they're already telling them what to do. We had a conversation. It was like,
exactly.
We're very simply, we carve out the special. We get it for free. We get no copays. And they're, well, I don't want to, drugs not get filled, and I don't want to disrupt that, and then get calls because of pharmacy. And then 2 minutes later, she goes, yeah, well, we had some success because we made it mandatory generic last year. That got some savings. So we make me. I'm like, talking at both sides of your mouth. You made them get generics. You don't want to disrupt them. I'm not telling them to change your drug. I'm just telling them to take a phone call to get it for zero copay. So, it's difficult. It's not easy. But
yeah,
that group, I'm trying to think of that group. That one, I think I swung at the end of the meeting. It was tough. Some are just not going to get there. I mean, you bang your head on those days and think, what am I doing wrong? And it's just,
so here's an approach you might like, right? The $100 VC fund. I just reviewed this when I was getting ready for the show, and I was like, I like that idea. I could pull this off. So you get into one of those meetings where it's like, look, we need to decide what matters most and what has the biggest financial impact. Now, I can tell you what it is, but you need to tell me what you think it is, right? Because I'm not going to convince you to do something you don't believe in. So here's $101 bills. Here's the top 3 choices that we have. Now, you can tell me, right? The think right mentality is going to be, oh, no, my boss will never go for this, right? I mean, we just default to the higher ups and they decide what the priorities are and what's important. Okay, crap. Okay, so what you need is, let's take the wisdom of your experience, because they pay you to manage healthcare, right? You and your benefits, you're the HR manager. Here's the benefits manager, so the two of you. So here's the 3 or 4 different options that we've proposed for you. And here's $101 bills. Allocate them across the options that we're presenting to you so that we know what you think will make the biggest difference for your team members. Or maybe it's for the bottom line of the company, depending on who you're talking to, right? Anybody could do that. And then, because it's real money, you got to use real money, because people won't do the same thing with play money. It's not monopoly stuff. So you got to use real money. And I think that would be a great exercise. What do you think, John?
I like, so it's a while back, didn't do it. Show the value of the money by putting up what it can buy. Oh, great. You used to tell me this. Okay. Instead of savings is $300,000. That's 6 full-time employees. That's 5 Teslas. Put the money into perspective, right? Put something behind it to show them what it buys. That's helpful as well. I remember doing that a while back.
Yeah.
Got away from that. I'm
It
not
might
sure
be
why.
2% of your payroll. Ask for what the gross payroll is, and then you'll know. And then you can always go, because those sound like big numbers. They live with those numbers. It's like, right, this will produce 3% of your payroll. Now, what's your average payroll increase? 3.3%. How significant would it be for you to be able to go to your boss and you go, I believe that next year we could give our employees a 4.3% increase, and we still only have to budget less than 50% of our normal budget. I'm betting your boss would go, well, that sounds interesting. How would you propose we do that? Well, we can get 3% from the medical plan through the savings we've negotiated, which leaves only 2%, and we'd normally be doing 3.3, and we actually spend less money and give our employees more money, which will lower turnover and increase retention. Hello, that's a way to talk about healthcare in a way that makes sense to an HR director.
Simple trick I've been doing lately is, in the traditional world of fully insured, right? They're cut copays, deductibles, and
shift cost.
Actuarially, when you're trying to lower premium, you've got to cut shit here and there. But with a self-funded plan, okay, you can build back up the plan. Now I pitched to them, let's build it back up the plan over time. But what I do now is very simple, and there's not much of a difference in the cost because it's in claims, right? It's on the back end. Is cut the fucking doctor co-payments in half. That's like the world to employees. That's the world to HR. I'll give you a trick. Simple example. Nobody understands this. It's like, okay, I saw a plan. $250 deductible, 20% to $2,000 or $2,500, right? What is that really? The $250 deductible. Now, $250 deductible is nothing. It sounds scary. You're still paying 20%. If you go in the hospital and you have a claim, you're going to hit the $2,500 either way. So what did I do? I just removed the deductible and gave them 20% to $2,500. And I was like, it's the same thing. They don't even realize it, but now they can say they have a plan with no deductible.
Well, yeah, that's a good option, but I think the best option, which everybody forgets, like probably because they don't know any TPAs that can actually administer, but remember the family deductible. That is the most fair and equitable deductible plan design option that exists in the marketplace, and it's been around for 50 years, and no carrier does it. John, I think.
Yeah, I illustrated that too, and I'm actually going to both of them. I'm showing them both. Because that one's just a home run, because the plan is like, yeah, you're going to be out $2,500, but I can give you a FMD for $250 to $500 a month. And it's like, you'd have to have an occurrence 5 different months to match this. And the pricing will be the same. And if you're a sick member, well, what happens to the people that are sick of this? Well, great. Let's look at that. You're going to incur claims in the first month on your current plan. You're out $2,500. This plan, you're still going to hit your max, but you're going to finance it now over 5 months because you're at a max of $500 a month. See how that works? And it changed behavior. So actuarially, it prices out the same, because long term, we know, having it for 30 years, that it actually changes behavior. So another creative way, adds a little, intricacy, an additional sale to it. So depending on the buyer and who you're dealing with, see what works, see what doesn't. So I'm bringing both to the table, because sometimes it just goes right over their head.
Yeah. Well, again, anything that's new, that's different than how I've always done it, is typically met with skepticism. So I often say on a Zoom call, I want you, this is going to be, it's going to sound different than anything you've ever heard before. So what I need you to do in order for you to hear me and better understand it is to just set aside your skepticism for just a moment. And then we can address it later, right? So we're just going to put it over here on the shelf, and then I'll start talking. And it pre-frames them to have more of an open mind, because most people, if left to their own devices, brokers especially, skeptical know-it-alls, right? Afraid to appear stupid or vulnerable or that they don't know something. So they're instantly, while you're talking, they're stuck not listening now because they're only thinking of ways on why this doesn't work. I'm going to find the reason why it doesn't work that everyone else has missed. And they're so stuck on that they they completely miss the value proposition. And this happens over and over again in HR people, or anybody who routinely buys healthcare year after year after year. They're often wired that way. So you have to be cognizant of that and sell to it.
It's funny because brokers will ask a million questions or this or that and something about a stop loss contract or terms. And it's like, well, hold on, time out. Did you read the ASO plan you put your client in now? Did you read the terms on that and on the PBM? And you're questioning the terms on mine. I'm happy to answer them for you.
HR, you pay 33% commission on
the broker.
Claims.
Did you read what you put your client? Oh, that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah. But you have to be willing.
Know it all. But it's okay.
You have to be willing to challenge them.
They're okay. It's okay though, because they're Blue Cross. They're allowed to. They're allowed to screw everybody. But you can't. Not that we are, but like,
no,
I can't let you have anything in there. It's
just the way.
Funny. But those brokers. Yeah, I mean, look, those people, like you said, they're not going to ever change or sell anything. I mean, you get it all the time with Syra.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes you're going to get them to come along with you, and it's usually because there's a multitude of different people hearing the value proposition, and people get it at different speeds and at different times. And if the right person gets it, they carry the weight, and the whole rest of the group comes with them. In my sales scenarios, I have multiple buyers with multiple layers typically, and so there's a lot of different people to talk to, and a lot of times at different times, and so they're all like getting it at different times.
Sometimes the leader carries the baton. Marcus Lemonis says, "Trust the process." Right? Trust the process. I mean, God, I hear people object or brokers object with you with things, and it's like, it's been around 17 years. You've sold hundreds of cases, billion-dollar companies, private equity companies, publicly traded companies, public entities, every which way possible of attorneys, this and that, vetted, went through it all.
Yeah.
The Health Transformation Alliance, the largest organization of employers in the country, has a solution on it, and the brokers ask.
And the first question some of these people will be, are you sure it's not discriminatory? It's like, again, you see their wiring. It's like, I'm going to find what's wrong with this. It's like, you didn't listen to anything. So all the lawyers for all these companies, they're idiots. But you, an insurance broker, an chief HR officer, you've figured out something that they must have missed. It's just hilarious.
So how do you talk about dealing with that, right? Because who was like Eminem in the movie 8 Mile? You throw them everything out in the beginning, so they can't object later to it. So do you start out, or in some of your calls and things like that, you just bring up, I know that's your rebuttals, like, here's the list of companies we've done business with, here's who's vetted me.
Yeah, I'll do what I call a flash roll, right? John, you know about that, right? So I'll do a flash roll. So if you're paying attention, there isn't any question about the efficacy or the fact that it's black and white. There's no gray to it whatsoever. And usually that kills the objections for that objection. It's like, wait, did you hear? Let me repeat it, right? Okay. So yeah, they didn't miss anything. They have dozens of lawyers at their firm. They didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I do the flash roll with with some of the clients and stuff like that, and that's what I tell advisors.
Yeah,
let me get on the phone, because we've got a laundry list of clients.
You're answering the objection before they ask it. That's what the flash roll is.
Here's the list of clients.
Let me just show you my authority without having to say I have the authority.
And I'll say, look, what you'll see here is companies from every industry, and the industry doesn't matter. And I think I got it from you. It's like every person on your health plan has the same heart conditions, high dollar medications, diabetes, surgeries. It doesn't matter if you're in construction or a public entity. Right. We're handling the issues, the medical conditions that they have, that employees have all over the country. So
what are those questions? Conditioned by their consultant. who anytime they're attacked says, ask them how many employees do they have, ask them how many employers do they have, ask them what size of employers they have, ask them if they have any of your industry in your state, and then they just go down the list of what amounts to a deflection or a deception of what really matters. And HR falls for it most of the time because they don't really want to do anything different.
It's the common It's just one of those common objections. You got to have a way to answer it. What else before we wrap here? We're getting towards the end. What else you got in that book?
I told them we put on there a cheat sheet. We're going to give you a cheat sheet, right? So this is I'm going to read it to you because this is how to frame a conversation to have one of these meetings. And you frame your wrong challenge with basically 4 boxes. So get out your pen and write this down. First box, how might we? And then the idea to fill that in after that question is you write down what you want to accomplish. And then the second box is for. So how might we for whom are you going to impact that's going to matter most? So it might be without. So if it's an HR issue, it's like creating the least amount of noise with as little disruption as possible for me. If we're talking about benefiting the employees so that employees will have, the smallest financial impact and reduce their premium contributions and maybe lower their rate increases. Or if it's a company focus is we can preserve our cash flow and increase our earnings by spending less on claims, right? So we talked about how might we for who's the interested party, and you can frame it according to the priorities of the person you're talking to. And then the third box is in a way that, and then describe the approach, mindset, or values you want to apply. And then the fourth box, so it says, how might we for in a way that, so that, and in that the answer to so that is the big impact you want to create. So I kind of gave it to you in how I framed the conversation, right? How can we add a new medical plan design that has little or no administrative burden or disruption to the HR team, that has as small a noise impact as possible to the employees, that will improve their lives and lower their claims cost, and simultaneously increase and improve the cash flow of the company, the earnings and profits of the company, and ultimately the enterprise value. And oh, by the way, HR, you're going to look brilliant when you take this to your boss. See, now you just created a cheat sheet to have a conversation about how to frame whatever it is that you want to talk about, what tactic or strategy is on your agenda.
Yeah, you got to get them on the side early in the conversation as much as you can. These HR people, make them more warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I've changed my style of little things that my brain coach taught me is the communication style of being less directive and being more directive, indirective, and nurturing, and hitting 65% of people with an opening line.
John's very nurturing with Stella, his dog.
True. At times.
That's right. I'm still trying to figure out how you went with Sean to smoke a Cuban, but you came home with a Puerto Rican. How does that work? I don't get it, man. I've been married a long time. You gotta explain that to me.
That is it, man. What else we got? We'll end it there. Hey guys, High Stake Advising. Tickets going to sell out. We're cutting it off at 75 people. Probably we're at about 50 something, almost 60, I believe. Going to be a good event. Make sure you check it out. Sign up. Prices going up soon. Virtue Health Alliance. Check us out next week. We'll see you next week, right? Same place,
Invest
same
in
time.
yourself. Come to Cali in August. It's beautiful. We'll
guys,
treat you right, and we'll teach you a bunch.
We'll have fun. Be good, guys. See you next time.